All right, Pops, the switch has been flipped. The latest data on May, new car sales, incentives, all that fun stuff.
Yes.
Wow. A lot to unpack here. First and foremost, we're going to kick it off with incentives. Would you believe me if I told you that BMW incentives are up year over year for the month of May? They were up 233%.
Well, that seems hefty.
Industry average, thanks to data from TrueCar,
yes,
64.3% increase in incentive spend amongst all manufacturers year over year for the month of May. New cars, folks.
Yes.
We're going to talk about new cars here. New cars, the switch has been flipped. Automakers are now seeing a lack of demand. We also pick that up with fleet sales numbers. These numbers, Dad, they stand out, don't they?
Well, absolutely. If you realize that in May of 2022, the average incentive for a BMW from the manufacturer was $1,182. In May of 2023, that jumped up slightly to $3,937. So
now, I'm not good at math.
I'm not good at math, but man, that seems like a pretty hefty increase in the amount of incentive that you had to create for somebody to come in and buy your product. Mercedes, similar. Last year, it was $1,253 was the average incentive. For May of this year, the average incentive was slightly over $3,000.
Yep.
Ford's incentive went from $1,037 to $2,270. GM from $1,725 to $2,255. Even Honda, who has been short of vehicles, went from $790 to $1,373. There is only one manufacturer in May whose incentive on average was less than $1,000. And that was Toyota.
And there's only one manufacturer whose incentive spend month over month actually went down, and that's Nissan.
Yes.
Nissan's went down 5.7%. Because even when you look at this month over month, Dad, 13.3% as an industry, that incentives went up. Across the board,
yes,
new car incentives are back, and they're going to continue to come back.
Yes, and the incentives as a percentage of the average transaction price. Last year in May, it was 2.6% industry average.
Yep.
This year, 4.2%.
And it should come as no surprise that Stellantis leads the league in incentives as a percentage of average transaction price. Stellantis, if you haven't seen on some of our Ray and Zach live streams or back on the CarEdge.com blog, they've got some vehicles that have a 2-year supply of inventory right now. Jeep Renegade.
Sitting on the ground.
8 out of the top 10 slowest selling new cars right now are Stellantis cars or trucks and SUVs.
Yes.
And for some reason, the Chrysler Pacifica hybrid minivan, but still 6%. And is your expectation, we haven't talked about this. Is your expectation that that's going to go down or up in the month of June?
Up.
What about July?
Up.
What about August?
Up.
Oh, this is like trying to make sure I know my months. What about September?
Do you know your months?
This is where I start to get tripped up.
Do you?
All right, Pops, CarEdge.com/report. Why am I going there?
Because this is the tool that truly levels the playing field between you and the dealer. It almost puts you in total control. I would imagine we will continue if car sales continue at the rate they're at the moment.
Yep.
Where a huge spike in fleet sales is what's driving the total sales numbers. So if the fleet sales continue to drive the total sales numbers, that indicates to me that the retail side of things, that the manufacturers are struggling a bit. And the only tool they have in their tool belt in order to change that is to incentivize the customer to come and buy their product. And they will either incentivize the customer with a below average APR, annual percentage rate for a loan,
which we are seeing right now,
or there will be customer rebates. I believe if fleet sales continue to go up while retail sales remain flat, that through the remainder of the year, on a monthly basis, we will continue to see incentives go up, and the average percentage of the transaction price that is incentives will continue to climb.
Hate to keep harping on Stellantis, and if you work at Stellantis and you ever want to talk to us, just go to CarEdge.com, contact us. We'd be happy to have you on the show. Retail sales at Stellantis, Dad, last month, year over year, were down 1.3%. For fleet sales, Dad, for the same time period, up 70.5%.
Wow. So that just shows you that retail customers don't want the product, but the rental car companies do.
And the theme is ever present. So
yes.
Retail sales for May are actually expected to be up 20.7% year over year, but fleet sales are expected to be up 44.8%. So a trend that we've been keeping our eyes on for months now is this increase in fleet sales, because if there are more fleet vehicles being made, those are typically cheaper vehicles, less profitable vehicles.
Yes.
Manufacturers would prefer to make the $80,000 pickup trucks and sell them to consumers, but we're seeing fleet sales rise, which means that the storyline of, well, we don't have chips, that's not a story anymore as far as I'm concerned. They can produce vehicles.
Yes.
That's why we saw GM earlier this year shut down their Lexington, Kentucky manufacturing plant, if I'm not mistaken.
Fort Wayne, Indiana,
thank you. Manufacturing plant for Silverado 1500s. Like, they can produce vehicles, they're choosing not to.
Yes.
And the fact that they can fulfill fleet sales is a representation of that. And the trends that we're seeing here, put you on the spot again, between now and the end of the year, do you think that these trends are going to change? Do you think that new vehicle affordability improves because manufacturers are starting to bring back incentives?
I think for those people who find themselves in the market, and what I mean by that is people who can look at vehicles whose average transaction price is like $47,000 and above. For those people, the vehicles will become more affordable. For the rest of us who can't afford to even begin to look at vehicles in the $45,000 plus price range, no, they won't become any more affordable because the manufacturers have proven they don't want to build those cars. So I think the affordability will be there for people of means to begin with. And for those of us who have limited means, most of these vehicles will still remain out of our grasp. The switch, ladies and gentlemen, has been flipped for some of us, not for all.